Hi folks, as a tournament organiser and competition referee, one of the frustrations I hear a lot of from players is when they hit what they think is a winning shot only for their opponent to call the ball out. So I've set up a little demonstration here to show that sometimes what you see from your end of the court is not always what your opponent sees from the other end. Now down the far side on the baseline of my opponent's court, you might see that I've set up 5 tennis balls. I've also set up 3 on the sideline over there, and we'll come to those in a minute. Now, I'm 5'9", and I'm standing a couple of feet behind my own baseline, and this is the view I get of the shots that I've hit towards my opponent's baseline. If you are a junior player, you're going to be slightly smaller, and so therefore this is the kind of view that you would get, a flatter view of the shots that you've just played. We're assuming a junior is around about 5 feet tall here in this demonstration. So I'm going to stand up again now. Now there are obviously 2 views here. We've got a view across the baseline at my opponent's end, and we've also got the ones down the line there. I'm standing currently in the centre of my court, so I'm looking at the 3 balls at an angle. And we do accept that obviously if the player is in line with the tram line or the sideline, then they would get a good enough view to make a decent call of whether that ball is in or out. And here you can see the 3 balls that I've set up. So now the question for you, please, is to tell me, or tell yourselves, which one of those balls is in and which ones are out. I'm going to zoom in to make it a little bit easier for you. So you can see the first one, the one that's nearest to the net, is plumb on the line, and you would be rightly disappointed if your opponent was calling that one out. The second one, the middle one of the 3, again, I think we can all say with a degree of certainty that that is half on the line and half off the line, and of course that means the ball is good. But what about the furthest one of these 3? Is that one in or is that one out? Remember, that's the view that you get for it. So we'll come back to that one in a minute. So again, I'm going to go to the centre of my court and I'm going to walk forward to the service line. Let's focus on those 5 along the baseline at my opponent's end. Now again, this is the normal view you would see if you were standing here, maybe in the volleying position. And can you tell me with certainty which one of those 5 are in and which ones are out? Let's go forward to the net. Okay, things might be getting a bit clearer now, but again, there is still an element of doubt there, isn't there, for those 5 balls. I'm now in the volleying position at the net. So we'll now go around the net, and I'll try and hold this as steady as I can so you can keep the balls in view at all times. And the first thing we'll focus on is the last of those 3 balls down the sideline. So is this ball in or is it out? I'm going to zoom in, I'm going to make it now easier for you. How many people said that this ball was in? If I keep it in view, you can see that that ball is clearly out, and so therefore your opponent's call, if they called it out, would be correct. But the point of the exercise here is to show that this ball looked in from your end of court, but is actually out when you get closer to it. Let's take a look at the balls on the baseline, and we'll do them one at a time. So this is the first one. Looked pretty much in to me at the far end of the court, but again, if I zoom in so you get a good view of it, you can see that that ball is definitely out. On to the second one. Half on the line and half off, which means that that ball is in. It probably looked a lot more in than it does here when you were down the far end of the court. But that ball is in, and justifiably, if your opponent called it out, you would be a little bit aggrieved, I think. The next one is a little bit easier still. Plumb on the line, definitely in, but again, probably from your view down the far end of court, that looked even further in than this one is showing you now here. On to number 4. Clearly out, again, probably looked a bit tight when you were down the far end, and some people would have said that probably clipped the back of the line. But as we can show you here, this one has got a clear gap between the line and the ball, and so therefore that one is definitely out. And finally, on to our last one. Again, how many of you said this was in? It certainly looked in from where I was standing when I started this video. But you can see, as I just rotate around it, that ball is definitely out. There is a clear gap between the ball and the line, and so therefore your opponent was right to call it out. So the whole purpose of this exercise was to show you that what you see at one end of the court is not always what is actual fact at the other end of the court.